Meeting to order, and on the agenda we are moving the fire mark report up into right after staff report on the Swash Court refurbishing, and also we are adding a bylaw number 42 on rates and fees for Fire Department of North Huron in the bylaws. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda? Councillor Bodden, Councillor Campbell, all in favor? Carried. Declaration of unitary interest, if any? None noted. The Reeves report. One of the things that I will report on is the Clinton Hospital gala that they do every second year. They had tremendous turnout Saturday night, and through both the silent and live auctions, money came forward. Very good night for the Clinton Hospital Foundation, and very enjoyable being there. And the a number of things in this meeting that I will go to the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. Deputy Reeve Reach and Councillor McGowan. All in favor? Carried. Okay, do you want to introduce the deputation, Gary?
Okay, thank you, Reeve. We have Jenny Smith, Peter Gusso, and Rick Elliott from the Blythe BIA to talk about the Blythe 365 market.
Good evening. We're just going to go over a short presentation of the marketing plan and how it's rolled out. So we have, we'll go through the whole process here. So Blythe is a historic village that lives at the intersection of our past and our future. So looking at why there was a need for a Blythe marketing plan, we looked at what was happening in Blythe, and we looked at how we can market Blythe 365 days a year. So the title of it, Blythe 365 Marketing Plan, is that so we can focus on marketing the village year round. So we looked at recommendations from the 2012 Blythe BRME report, and also the Township of North Huron's strategic plan for 2013 to 2018. So we looked at the plan to what would this plan benefit, who would it benefit? So it would benefit 4 key components of the village and of the township. So we looked at the Blythe BIA. So it increased foot traffic and awareness of the businesses with their products and their services. Also the village and the township of North Huron, the residents that were there, that live there currently, and also the infrastructure and the existing parks and natural resources that are in Blythe now. And also it would also bring awareness not only to the village but to the whole the township of North Huron. It would heighten the identity of Blythe. As we know, it is a very strong community, and we felt that something that would follow both the strategic plans of the county and of the township to market Blythe as its own. So objections of the plan were to develop recommendations and action items to penetrate the local market over a 1-year period. Now this is a 3-year marketing plan. However, I'm highly recommending that at every AGM you have a look at the plan and you work through the plan and see if it's actually working for you. It needs to be a working document. It needs to be something that's looked at every year. Is it working? And if it isn't, it needs to be adjusted. This is a plan that you can work with it. There's 4 or 5 key players to this plan, and the objectives are to partner and collaborate and make this a whole village plan. So as I said, it is a 3-year plan, and it will be implemented by the Blythe BIA, but there are some key players in it. So looking at we looked at some documents and we did some research, and we looked at culture and tourism are 2 focal points in the direction that this plan will take. So the development of the plan, so a little history on the plan. So when I took the project over, we started with a 4-phase development of the plan. So the first phase was project orientation and assessment. So we looked at some planning documentations, which are in Appendix A. We focused primarily on the North Huron strategic plan, and also the County of Huron, their strategic plan and their cultural documentation as well. So the cultural plan is quite an extensive document, because Blythe is the cultural hub that it is. Those three things were really important in the implementation of this plan. So what we also did was I did a number of interviews with stakeholders, with staff, and community members to see what had happened in the past with Blythe, what could happen in the future, and what wasn't being implemented. I spent quite a bit of time interviewing people and really getting an understanding of what they wanted to see and what they thought would work. So the interviews was definitely, I would say, the best part of this whole process, because I got to understand what was needed on the ground. They're the best people to ask. So we developed a draft marketing plan, which we met with the BIA to go over that and how to look at it to see what would work. And from that, some additional interviews were recommended as well. And then finally, the finalization of the marketing plan. So I presented the marketing plan on May 29th to the BIA, and they had approved it and would like to adopt it from then. So we did, as I said, I interviewed the Blythe Board of Management, business owners, municipal staff, community volunteers, representatives from the ESTC and the festival as well, to make sure that their voices were heard, because this is a Blythe 365 marketing plan, not just a Blythe BIA marketing plan. So marketing the vision for Blythe. So what we like to do is to have a look at where we want to end up and work back from that. So because this is a 3-year plan, so some of the key components of it would be that Blythe would be an even more vibrant community that attracts more culture, more residents, more visitors, and more businesses. So culture and tourism will be the main economic drivers for the village. So culture and tourism will be at the forefront as a key contributing factors to the quality of life in Blythe. So not only for businesses, but for residents as well. So it would also be a central hub for culture in Blythe. So looking at and relying on, but not limited to, so looking at ESTC, the campground especially, the former Blythe Public School, the festivals, the trail, key infrastructure that we can really use, that we have currently already. I had two great interviews with Pat and Denise, and they're more than happy to accommodate, with the campground and being able to use that. And I think that there's those 4 structures that everybody needs to be at the table to ensure that we're marketing Blythe for all the assets that it currently has. So looking also at culture and tourism to integrate new and existing events and as such, and we do have a 365 tentative schedule for events that incorporate what we have already. So we have the mushball tournament, the barn dance threshers, possibly doing something like a winter fest to get people there in the winter. So also organizing some happenings and looking at sustainable, everybody knowing each other, partnering, knowing what they have, so that we can all work together and make sure that we're a united front. And also heightening the recognition as Blythe as a regional hub of culture and tourism, so that they know that they can come in here. It's identified that visual, performing arts, and innovation and leisure are a part of it. So there's a lot of things that Blythe has that even the trail or as such need to be marketed as a collaborative front. So again, working especially with the ASDC and the festival and the township. And also with 1490, there's some really, really strong players in Blythe. And when you think about Blythe, it only has 1,000 people. There's some really strong and terrific things going on there, but everybody needs to work and be on the same page on this in order for this to work. So marketing opportunities that were identified through the planning process. So we identified 4 strategic marketing opportunities. There are quite a few more, but these were ones that we thought would be beneficial for all parties and everybody included. So to enable more effective marketing strategies, campaigns with specific goals and measurables. So to have a look at what we're doing, what's happening, what's not happening, and to really have a good plan for any event. So if there was something, let's say you wanted to do an event, say the Street Fest. So to have clear goals and measurables, see who can come to the table, who can help each other out, and really have an effective marketing strategy and campaign for that to make sure that those goals and measurables are met. A hope and a wish and a dream doesn't often work, but if you have clear measurables, you know then next year, should you do it, shouldn't you do it? So to have everybody on board to make sure that everybody's needs are met is key. Also moving into that sort of build collaborative marketing capacity within the Blythe BIA culture, tourism sectors. So having a look at it, seeing you know, what the capacity is. Should you be using radio? Should you be using, what event are you doing? Are they reading in the paper? So to really look at the collaborative capacity. Also engaging more Blythe businesses, organizations, and residents as active participants. How do we get the people that are existing already involved? How do we get them aware? It quite often happens, from what I see, is that an event happens in Blythe, you drive through, lots of things are going on, and then you find out Monday what happened on Saturday. So that's a real shame that you could actually work on marketing that and marketing to your current residents and businesses that this is going on, that's going on before it happens. So having that communication is key to the success of any event, initiative, or anything that's happening. Also the focus on culture and tourism marketing on specific initiatives in Blythe year-round. So again, working with these major partners, I can't stress this enough, that it was identified so many times that you have such strong things happening there that everybody really needs to work together to ensure the awareness. So if 1419 is doing something, then you know ESTC needs to know about it, and the festival needs to know about it, and we really need to all work together. If ESTC has a great idea to bring people there, and they can work with accommodations, which is the campground, then the campground needs to know that ESTC is doing this, and vice versa, and everything. And Blythe is a unique community. There's so many people that want to make it better. They just need to know what to do to make it better, or to know that something's going on. So I think this marketing plan will help with all of that. So there was 13 recommendations, and I'm not going to go through all 13 right now because they are on the report, and you can have a copy of the report as well. But 4 pillars of the 13 recommendations are: the first one is to enable more effective marketing campaigns with specific goals and measurables. I went through that. Also build collaborative marketing capacity within Blythe's diverse culture and tourism sectors. Engage Blythe and area residents participants. So,
Jenny,
yes.
in the top line, I think you probably meant North Huron instead of Ripley. Huron Kinloss, centered by Ripley. Township of Huron.
I don't have that on mine.
We are looking for possible amalgamation, so just leave it there.
If you got a partner, I don't think
Add North in there.
Where is it?
Which number, sorry?
At the back, at the end of the first line at the top on 3,
Township of Huron?
Huron.
which is
Oh, I forgot the word north, sorry.
which is Ripley.
Township of Huron. Wow. I guess I would say Huron. Kinloss would be Ripley.
Shame.
That's good. About 35 people looked at it, and you're the only one that caught it. I appreciate that. So looking at that too, developing a Blythe community improvement plan specifically for Blythe, partnering with the Township of North Huron, and looking at OMAC to do that. Also, enhancing wayfinding sign, promotional sign for specific events. So as I said, I mean, you do have those signs outside of Blythe that say what's going on, but oftentimes there's a great event in Blythe and you don't know about it because there isn't enough signage. Simple signage would do it, it's not a huge expense. And also really building on the 365. There's so many things we can do in the winter. We really need to look at that. The summer sort of sells itself. We do a really good job with that. So the 365 is what's really important here. Also, looking at your media and looking at how you market. I mean, it's a digital age, and I really think there needs to be some major focus put on that. And also the marketing with specific initiatives in mind. So just a quick overview of the events. We did look, I went through the North Huron strategic plan many times and read it to make sure that we were in line, this plan was in line with what you've already approved, what you're looking at, and also the Huron County strategic plan and specifically the cultural plan. Everything that's in this marketing plan is completely conducive with all 3 of those plans, which I think is really important because then we're all on the same page county-wide. And there are resources there at the county that are available, and culture is a major focus right now for Huron County. So this totally fits right in, and we know that tourism is one of the things that we should be focusing on. So I think that we really need to look at, that Blythe is a great It's a great focus for the county alone, just to focus on culture and tourism. But the partnerships need to be there, the communication needs to be there, and I think that really needs to be paid attention to. So this is just a tentative overview of some of the things that are existing, some of the events that are existing, but also some of the things that possibly could happen. So Winterfest seemed to be one that people thought, again, getting people there 365, thought that this would be something that they could do. So if it's a snow volleyball or something on the trails or using the arena, maximizing what the arena has, so you do have the upstairs as well. And really doing some things with it, and also looking at the events that they have. So if they have a big group coming into ESTC, but what else is going on in Blythe? How can we partner? What can we give the people that are already coming in that will give them some more information of what we have other times of the year, so that perhaps maybe they could come back. So looked at doing an outdoor challenge, different things. I mean, we know that 1419 is a huge project that they're doing their Fair on 4. How are the other groups getting involved? How can we market together? Do any of the participants that go to ESTC or the festival, do they know about the Fair on 4? Is there any way that we can link these things and build partnerships? And with partnerships and collaboration, there's strength in numbers. So I mean, we may be able to double up on volunteers. We may be able to help each other. That partnership really needs to happen, and I think what Peter will announce next will really help execute this plan and make it come to fruition. So. Those are some of the things, and this is an inventory of the infrastructure that we have. So you can see there's for a town of 1,000, there's quite a few things that are available, and I think that we really need to maximize what we have. So if there's any questions at this point, I will take any questions.
I'd like to commend you on this. It's a great presentation, and I know you had difficulty getting through this, and you've done it really well. I'd just like to give out a little secret that the big group, the Blythe Idea Group, missed the boat in one area. And that is when we sold the idea of Blythe being a historic village, we forgot to do something that would make it look historic. We forgot to implement that. And I think that's the one thing that's missing here, but it's not really missing because this is part of the implementation. What we have found is that out there in the world, there are hundreds of thousands of people who descended from the original pioneers and down through the years. And every year, a bunch of them are deciding to look into their roots. Where do we come from? Where did our ancestors come from? And we've just slightly tapped that market. We have a lot of people. We have people coming in the dozens every year to do that. But we're just scratching the surface. And I think it's really important that part of the implementation of this be that we're inviting those people. And when they come, we give them the resources to find out where their families are buried, where they worked, where they have their businesses, and so on, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of work there. There's far more work than Jan and I can do. And I just like to point that out as one of that's a really important aspect of tourism these days. So I commend you on the work that's here, and I know it's going to make a big difference.
Can I just add something too? Talking about that, I did actually leave out measurables for this because there's so much going on and we were not sure what the collaborations are going to be. I think the measurables need to be identified through the next process that Peter's going to talk about. So talking about that is that, if it is a specific heritage or let's say a heritage walk or a walkability or some sort of function, I'm really hoping that what Peter will talk about next, that the measurability can be put on that, so then it will show that those things work and that people are coming here for that, and that you can sustain that through the measurability and the data that would be attained through that.
And you've mentioned collaboration with other aspects of the county, like for example the Genealogy Society.
Absolutely.
So they have a tremendous resource, Historical Society, and Area 4 Tourism. That's a very important collaboration.
Myself, hello everyone. And again, Brock said that we thank Jenny very much for what she's done for the Blythe BAA and exactly what everyone had asked for from the beginning, and we appreciate appreciate that. In regards to this, we put in an application to HEDP, and we got approved on last Friday. So we're here to ask for a partnership with North Huron for approval for $2,500. The VA is putting $2,500. And with that, we are going to put out a RFP to a community improvement coordinator for Blythe, VIA. This person is going to, again, stress as Jenny said, keep communication with the Blythe VIA, ESTC, 1419, the Blythe Festival, and of course the Township of North Huron. And yes, it's a small investment for a 3-year plan, which again she says will keep on going forward and forward through the years. And we look forward to again working with everyone here, and I appreciate your time.
Just a question regarding the HEDP. They've reduced the number of intakes, is that correct? So I think at one time there were 4 intakes, now there's only 2. And so I guess there was emergency for the Blythe BIA to submit their application.
Do you want me to
Otherwise,
speak to it?
Yeah, sure.
Well, because of the timeline, trying to get this plan done as quickly as we did, as thoroughly as we did, Gary's right that HEDP has 2 intakes this year, so June and October. So it was a little bit, it's different, and Roxy could probably speak to this as well, but it is structured differently than it has in the past. So we did unfortunately need to rush with an application because we didn't want to miss this June intake. So we did put in the application, the grant application. So unfortunately we had to do it a little bit backwards. Normally we would come and ask for the partnership and then go forward with the application. But in order for this plan to be implemented, you have to have someone to do it. I mean, it's going to be a useless plan if it can't be implemented. And this has been a bit of a long process, and I'd really like to see this move forward. So it needs to be a partnership with the township and with Huron County and with the VIA. It will be facilitated. This person will be facilitated with by the VIA, but it will have. This person will have a lot of connection with Pat and Connie and Gary and the rest of the staff too. But so that was sort of the process with the HEDP. We would have liked to have gone the other way and of course come to council first, but timing unfortunately did not permit for that to happen with just the 2 intakes this year. So this funding is economic development funding. This position would be a supplement to that, and so I'm really hoping that the council will consider that because this will be a really worthwhile cause to have someone be able to connect the dots and build the partnerships and collaborations that Blythe deserves.
The HEDP understood the timing problem, and so the approval was conditional on our council coming through with that. So they understood the situation.
I'm just going to note that Peter and Jenny and Rick met with Deputy Reeve Reach and myself and Connie Goodall a few weeks ago and made us aware of the recommendation in the marketing plan. And we recommended that they appear at tonight's council meeting to make the request. Deputy Reeve.
I'll make a motion that North Huron support the HEDP, well, the plan for the $2,500 to get a marketing coordinator for Blythe.
Bernie?
Just a question. So you don't feel that the person you're hiring is a duplication of our staff or economic development officer? Which is Connie?
Correct.
Yeah, it's not a duplication.
No.
No. Okay.
It is a add-on.
It's an add-on.
He or she will actually be working with Connie and collaborating with her, not.
Just another question, just more curious. I think so you're hiring this person for 3 years, or this is a yearly?
No, this is I believe it's a 6-month contract.
Okay.
And that's what it is, a contract.
Okay.
This person is not a staff member, it's just a contract. So this person has the opportunity to further their contract and find more fundings because it has worked in other communities as well. Yeah.
I understand that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dave?
I support this because in Blythe, it is a very active village, and there's a lot of things going on. As a business owner, we and all the other business owners are busy running businesses, as Peter was telling me. He's running a restaurant. He doesn't have time to run up and down the street and talk to the other business owners during business hours. We have to be at our businesses running it. And so a marketing coordinator is certainly going to help with communication, and so everybody will know what's going on, and also coordination of the different projects, and probably getting more people involved on committees so that it doesn't fall to the 3 or 4 or 5 people that are working on the committees now. The jobs will be spread out a lot more, and should bring more people in, help our businesses thrive as well.
Archie?
But just curious, I think the document's really good, and I know we're speaking to this particular motion, so I think the marketing is a good first step. What areas of priority? I mean, you have 4 pillars within your document that are obviously priority areas. What are your thoughts, setting aside the marketing issue, to prioritize and put work plan together on the other three key strategy areas that you want to work on? And what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I think this person, it needs to be the right person to build these partnerships, and I think that, I know a lot of the feedback that I got was that they were happy that someone was asking them what they wanted, what they thought. So I think this person really needs to build partnerships, collaborations, and open some doors. I think that's one of the major focuses right away, so that they know the STC has this going on, has that going on, that the campground can facilitate this group of people, that it has this benefits, and really build on that. I think that's really key. Seeing what the festival does an amazing job of marketing, how can we partner up? And that person will really focus on building those partnerships and collaborations, and having someone to connect with. So if someone wants to know what's going on, they'll have one person to connect with, and then keep in contact with Connie, work with Connie, and work with Pat, and figure out who's the best person for this or that, and also community groups in the Legion, and know what's going on to really work together. So I think that's a major focus of this person's job, is to build that. That's probably the first thing I would recommend, and then implementing this, because without those partnerships, it's pretty tough.
Just one question, and it has happened that when the model jet aircraft were doing the show at the airstrip out here, that was the same weekend that Blythe was doing the street festival last year, and that it will take a bit of coordination so that one part of the same municipality is not competing with another part at the same time, and that in a marketing person basically getting those dates possibly a year ahead for those that are available would be a great assistance, and then you're not competing with your next door neighbor.
And that's exactly why you need someone, so you know you're not competing with anything that's going on here, that you're actually supplementing it. And the way that we put in the HEDP app too, is that it is a 6-month contract, so it'll be, let's say, July to December. So then you can assess it and see if that's A, the right person, B, is this working, are they doing the job? So that, sort of baby steps. So it'll be 21 hours a week for 6 months, seeing how it works, is it working for everybody? And then they can connect us, so you're not competing events. It doesn't make any sense to compete with events when it's such a small area, but that's exactly why you need someone. So that's
And especially coordinating with the county, because Central Huron or Morris Turnberry, that has to work, and that even getting those schedules put together would be a big step forward.
Absolutely.
Brock?
It's really important to note one thing about the HEDP grants. They are for startup events. You can't use that as a means of sustaining a position year by year. So that part of the job, I think, for the committee and for that person is to figure out the funding, but what's going to make it sustainable.
I just am curious, the person who is doing this position, are they going to be having an office on the main street so that they're very accessible, we can contact them, drop in? I'm just curious where that's going to be housed at.
I don't know exactly where it is, but I know we've had an in-kind offer for exactly that. So they will be downtown Blythe, they will have Wi-Fi, that's all going to be in-kind from a BIA member. So yes, they're gonna have historical cash.
No, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, unless council has any more questions, all in favor of the motion? Carried.
Thank you.
No business arising because of these matters. Health and safety is just as it is. We can move right to Director of Recreation and Facilities for the staff report, squash court refurbishing and repurposing. Melissa, are you?
Yeah, I'll introduce her and,
I think you just did.
was that? He just did, yeah. I guess I just wanted to introduce Melissa. She's our fitness supervisor and does a fantastic job at the complex and actually throughout the entire township running programs. We've expanded our class offerings down to Blythe. We run them out of the hall upstairs in the community center. And she and I, but a lot of her work, and Larry, have all been working on this squash court refurbishing. So I invited Melissa to come and explain the project, and so I'm just going to turn it over to her.
Okay. So what has happened is, I've been told, I wasn't here last year, I was on maternity leave, but we had some surplus funds last year from excess revenue, which is always a good thing, that was rolled into reserves for this project. And what the goal of this project is to get a different group of people using a space that is being very underutilized at this point. We did have some damage, quite a bit of damage from some water leakage, 2006, 7, for quite a few years. The roof itself was fixed and we added the heat tracing wire, as I'm sure you remember. And so that problem was fixed. The interior was not fixed at that point. So what this money is going towards is refurbishing the actual inside from that water damage. And when Pat and Larry and I spoke to each other and we got speaking of it, instead of taking the squash courts back to the bare wall and taking it up to that 100% capacity, we thought the money could be better spent by sprucing the courts up, definitely, by painting, redoing the floors, that type of thing, but just leaving the status quo of the squash courts. So they're still usable, they're still great for recreational users, they're just not totally top-notch that you would hold, you know, an international tournament or something like that, which we wouldn't get into anyway with 2 courts, that type of thing. So what we're looking at is a repurposing of the area. So instead of just hitting our blue collar, usually it's white collar males is usually who the sport is geared to, we're looking to expand into a lot of youth who are not having an area in the complex at this point to call their own. At 14, they're allowed to be a part of the fitness center. At 10, they can come up if they're supervised by a parent. But to be there kind of after school, that age is 8 to even 7 to 14, there's not a lot for the age range to do. So what we kind of batted around was quite a few ideas to be able to keep the squash courts in use, so we're not eroding our usership that we have at this point, but to be able to add to it. So what we have put in this plan is to install a basketball court that will be able to be retractable in and out, the same as what they would have at a school. So it can be moved out of the way so people can continue to play squash, or it can be brought down for basketball play. So just drop-in times that they would be able to pay for on a pay-per-go rate, or that they would be able to pay with a membership. And the other thing we're looking to install is volleyball, which is basically volleyball. But because it's played in a court, it gives a little bit more to the sport. So you can use the sidewalls, you can bat off the sidewall into the other court, that type of thing. So it's a sport that can be played with about 4 to 6 people. So it gives that youth age range a sport to be able to play with, you know, a few friends. It can even be played with 2 if they choose. It also you know, opens up leagues, that kind of thing as well. I've been told quite a few people in their 20s and stuff play it down in the city. They get into leagues and that type of thing as well. But both additions to the court do not require the courts to be unusable for the public. So the volleyball just has holes in the wall that, you know, almost like a floor of a gymnasium where a plug goes back in. You can play squash, or you can pull the plugs out, hook your nets in, and then play. So very little takedown and setup time, and that continues back and forth through the day. It gives us a lot of opportunity for another activity for our day camp groups within the building, as well as school groups that we may have coming in and out, that type of thing. We also have an opportunity to market it with our family memberships, because at this point our family memberships include anyone in the household that is a full-time student, so under the age of 25, as long as they're full-time. At the age of about 6 and under, we allow them to use the child minding program. With that, that's where they're covered, as well as they're included in the pool membership. But as I said before, that age, about 7, 8 years old to, you know, 13, there really isn't a lot to attract them. So we lose a lot of families, I believe, that way, because there's really nothing to bring your kids to do at that age range within the building. We do try and offer a lot of outside programs through the rec department and through our rec and leisure, through Rochelle and that type of thing. But as far as a facility that they could drop into, this is kind of what we're looking at doing there. So what we're looking for is to have you approve our plans. We have at this point refurbished the courts by redoing the floors in both courts. We still need to repaint the lines, which would, if this is approved, include putting a key on for basketball, as well as repainting those squash lines. And then it would be able to move forward with the purchasing of the basketball net from Forum Athletics, as well as the volleyball nets from PlayCon, which is who built our squash courts. So that's what we're looking for. Questions?
I just have a comment and then a question. My first comment is the $5,500 for retractable basketball nets.
Mm-hmm.
The public school up here has 2 very, very good ones in them, and the hospital has no use for them. They'd probably give it to you if you took them out. And they work really well. I played on them a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, before I got handed the project, Pat was able to look into those, and to be able to retrofit them to different areas, it costs almost the same as, it's one of those joyous things that you deal with when you refurbish things. Unfortunately, it won't work in our facility. When we quoted, we are able to reuse backboards and the goals from those nets that we were able to get from Blythe Public, I believe. So we are reusing that part of the nets. It also gives the opportunity that if we had to put in a glass backboard, let's say, and it got damaged, we would have to replace that. And because we have extras of these backboards and goals, we basically will hopefully never have to pay to replace those again, because we have enough in storage at this point. So.
And the question was, we have an in-house carpenter now, after all the conversation we had about that, we have an in-house carpenter.
We have for quite a while.
We have had one in-house. Now, he's only on call on hours as we need him. He doesn't work with us full-time or anything. So if we have a project, like sanding a floor or building something for us, he's done some work. He's going to help us with some of the fire code work at the museum. So we hire him on an hour-by-hour basis as needed. But we went through a RFP hiring procedure to identify somebody, yes.
Yeah, so we're not paying him a weekly wage. It's just.
No, it's an hourly rate when he does work for us and he uses his own tools, and then we just buy the supplies as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Urgent.
Any concerns about supervision, Melissa, with the kids? I mean, that age group team?
There is always concerns with supervision, but what we have looked at is, first we put the basketball net in the court that's closest to the office, so there is that supervision during the daytime, that type of thing, as well as we have the video system with the supervision in the main office. So this area would only be accessible when there is someone in the main office, so at least there is that visible there, yeah.
We're always watching.
Always,
Melissa right out of her office.
yeah.
One question that possibly during hockey practices in families where the siblings have to go along.
Yeah.
I think this could be a big thing because watching a siblings hockey practice is like watching paint dry. So that, I think it could be a good infill for something like that.
That's what we're hoping for.
Any other?
Anything you wanted to add about that?
No, that was great.
Yes.
So, does anybody,
I'll make
you're making the motion, McGowan and Vauden? Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa.
Okay. Gary and David, you want to introduce this?
And I'm going to have Chris join me here, and I'll give an introduction to Chris momentarily.
I've seen it.
When I became chief, one of the sort of standard things that a new chief always does is have a look at existing bylaws and existing agreements, et cetera, that the fire department has in place. Not so much out of a desire to change them, but just to make sure you know what you're committed to and make sure they're current. In that process, over the next probably 2 to 3 months, you're going to get various assorted amendments to bylaws or my commentary on our bylaws, just so that we're, as a municipality, aware of where we stand. One of the first bylaws that came across my sort of desk that I wanted to have a look at was, again, an understanding of our fire department fees bylaw in terms of what we charge for inspections, what we charge for various consorted emergency services. Reason for that being is that this year we entered an agreement with Morris Turnberry where Don Egan, our fire prevention officer, will be doing work with Morris Turnberry, and Morris Turnberry in turn will be doing community safety work in North Huron. And I wanted to make sure that our current fee structure was appropriate and then maybe approach Morris Turnberry about having something similar. So if Don Egan is doing an inspection at Royal Homes, the fee structure is the same as if he's doing an inspection at Westcast, just down the street. In the process of doing that, I found several things, and I'll come back to the fees bylaw later on the agenda. But one of the things I came across when I started consulting with other municipalities about how they're running their fees was this company called Firemark. And I'd be perfectly honest, I'd never heard of Firemark. But the other departments that I spoke to that were clients of theirs spoke highly of this organization. So when I went to the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs conference, of course, one of the things you do when you get all your peers together is just sort of ask around, hey, what about this? I've heard some good things. And the general consensus was exceptionally positive with this organization. Council has my report on Firemark, but the real bottom line is that currently when FD&H has a fire where we need to put out an invoice for fees, it is looked after by North Huron municipal staff. It's not their area of expertise, it's not my area of expertise in terms of dealing with insurance companies or adjusters. And at the end of the day, it's through no fault of anyone within our organization, we're just not effective at it. It's just not what we do. And that's where Firemark comes in. And Firemark is an organization that, when you see the list of communities on the presentation, many of our neighbors are using to assist in that endeavor. But likewise, cities with full-time insurance staff on board are going to Firemark for fire-related insurance matters because they're just more efficient. So As we reviewed this, I take my peers for their word, but I also went to an insurance friend and colleague of mine who has no skin in the game in our neighborhood. So frankly, if it's good or bad, it's not going to affect his livelihood. But I asked him for his honest opinion. And likewise, you'll have those comments in your package, and they were very positive. Stuff I wouldn't have thought of is he asked me who in your municipality might be self-insured. So I have no idea. And he said, well, do you have Mennonites? Yeah. Well, later I went to go into my captain's workplaces, and there's a thing on the wall talking about their self-insurance at their workplace. Well, never knew that, but there's another one. But he brought up some very positive comments on Firemark. He also brought some issues he thought we should address to make sure that things are appropriate, and in discussions with Chris, those issues have been addressed. So having gone through all of this, I thought at this point it'd be appropriate to ask Firemark to present to council about a 10-minute presentation sort of as to what they're about, and hopefully fill in some of the missing points that my report doesn't cover. So with us tonight we've got Chris Carrier. Chris is a former mayor of Collingwood, resides in Collingwood, so I appreciate his timing being moved up on the agenda. And Chris is going to sort of do the Coles Notes outline as to what Firemark looks like and how it works for council. And hopefully be able to answer any questions that may be on councillors' minds in a better way than I could. So with that, Chris, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you, Chief, and your worship, members of council. My pleasure to be here. Firemark started several years ago, but we actually launched our program in 2011, and the company is 100% Canadian, owned and operated. And the company was started by insurance adjusters, and I am one of the only few people that is not an insurance adjuster. I'm a former manufacturer and elected official. Some of your neighbors are members of our Firemark team and clients, and your immediate neighbor to the north, Teeswater and South Bruce, are clients, but some of those folks you will recognize. We have 31 clients in Ontario, 3 in Saskatchewan and 1 in Alberta, and our intention is to dramatically grow our client base. Our largest client is the City of Kitchener, and our smallest client is Moonbeam near Kapuskasing, Ontario, with less than 1,000 people. So whether it's a full-time department, a volunteer department, or a composite department, we're able to recover funds for every type of municipal fire department out there. How does the program work? Essentially, we ask that you amend your user fee bylaw, and I believe that is up for consideration this evening, and the purpose of that is to unlock the insurance contract, which has a legal requirement most often in order to recover fire response fees. Process, because we did not want to create any extra work for the chiefs. They're very busy officials right across the country. We get a copy of your standard incident report, which the chief fills out anyway. We review the insurance policy. We have a database of over 1,400 policies across a multitude of companies. We see what indemnification there is. We recover on behalf of your fire service the funds that they're entitled to receive. Money goes into a trust account, and then we release those funds to you, and the trustee releases it to us. You retain 70% of the gross funds, and we retain 30%. Doing your revenue projection, you've had a very busy from May 2013 to end of April 2014. So your standard revenue projection is about $7,200, $7,179. But looking at your specific incident call, property-related calls, we're doing a low-end projection for the last 12 months of approximately $9,100, which could also be on the higher end of receiving about $25,500 for the fire service. How do we arrive at that 7,179 number? Because of the people who created Firemark, they have access to a number of insurance databases, they have professional expertise, they understand what the payout is per 1,000 population, so it's a standard extrapolation of numbers. With 3 years of invoicing, we're fairly confident with our revenue projections for the various fire departments. The Municipal Act is a beautiful document. I'm sure each and every one of you read it several times. I know I used to read that before I go to sleep at night. And, but it did change in the early 2000s. It became with natural person powers, and it allows you to do what is deemed reasonable in a reasonable set of circumstances for a municipality. It used to be very prescriptive. It would say, thou shalt do this, and if it didn't say that, you couldn't do it. Now, if it prohibits you from doing it explicitly, if it doesn't say that you can't do it, it means you can do it. And you can explore opportunities for new revenue if it's a reasonable thing for you to do. And private market, create a mechanism where you purchase an insurance policy that has coverage. The person is paying for the premium, so you should be recovering those funds for your fire department. Okay, my rates are going to go up. No, they're not. We've been programmed with automotive. Don't scratch your car, don't dent your car, don't get in a car accident, the rates will go up. Well, probably, but not in property insurance policies. The driving factor for property insurance policies for the premiums to go up is the cost of inflation. To rebuild your home or your business property or your farm property will cost you more tomorrow, in 2 months from now, or 2 years from now than it did today. Will the owners be required to pay a deductible? No. It's deductible exclusionary. You, the municipality, you have an insurer. If you had a fire with municipal property, let's say at an arena, and the fire department, of course, would put the fire out, you've incurred $50,000 or $60,000 worth of costs. Would you rather recover the costs from your insurance provider or your tax base? And you pay no deductible, and it won't affect your future premiums. The premium increases municipally are coming from liability exposure, not property costs. Hey, I pay taxes. You know why I pay taxes? I pay taxes for the fire department. Why am I getting an extra fee? There is no extra fee. The private market actually created fire departments. Insurance companies created fire departments, if you look at your history. And municipalities started taking them over. And when they took them over, insurance companies continued to collect the premium for the fire department coverage because they used to reimburse one another, but they didn't reimburse you. So we're asking insurance companies to honor the contracts that they're collecting the premium for that has the coverage. And that's it in a nutshell. Worship and members of council.
So as you will see in my report, my recommendation is that North Huron enter an agreement with Firemark to process our property insurance claims. Aside from the monetary side of it, the stuff I like is that it makes it easier for us to process this than what it currently is. I like the fact, quite honestly, in my previous business career, we used to take pride in the fact that if you didn't like our service, you gave us short notice, you could leave, because we earned your business. Firemark's agreement is 30 days termination, and we can walk away anytime. Well, that tells me that if we're not satisfied, if we're not earning our business, well, then we can walk away. So while it's a contract or an agreement, we're not tying ourselves for the rest of time. And more importantly for me, is that when I got into our bylaws and started looking at things, I started to see our neighbors are using this. I know other departments in our own vicinity are looking at this. And frankly, our current position on bylaws is no longer current with the industry around us, in that we are too cheap on our emergency services, and we're now on the expensive side on the prevention component with our bylaws. And as part of the overall picture, Firemark is a very nice fit for managing our fees, managing our bylaws in the go forward. And one of the questions, of course, comes about is where would you take these funds? I'm not a fan of slush funds. I'm not wired that if you find extra revenue, you spend extra revenue. It's just not how I think. But one of the important structures within FD&H is our operating reserve, which on years such as this one where we're run off our feet, the operating reserve allows us to maintain our overall operational functionability allows us to maintain our equipment maintenance and replacement schedule, as well as our large capital item schedule, without affecting the budget. This year, our operating reserve fund was maxed out, I believe, last year at $50,000. It's going to take a fairly significant hit this year to cover off and we'll talk about later, the call volume we're encountering. The way the operating reserve works is that when it gets topped up to a certain point, then any surplus funds above that get reimbursed to North Huron and to our contracted partners on a proportional basis. From where I sit, having an operating fund that can be reimbursed or refunded through a Firemark type program, aside for fees for equipment that was immediately replaced or damaged or consumed, is a prudent way to go. We don't use it as a slush fund. We don't use it for something, oh look, I got money, let's go spend it. We use it for something that truly sustains the fire department, and if we get to the point where it's at a surplus again, then our municipal partners and ourselves see a reduction in our cost of the fire service. And when I put this all together, an updated fees bylaw in agreement with Firemark and some strong boundaries and guidelines in terms of how we manage our operating reserve fund, I think it makes for a strong package in terms of backstopping and supporting our fire department and our firefighters in our community. So to that end, I'll just open it to council if they have any questions of Chris or myself.
I'll maybe start through to Chris. I took that maybe the liability portion is where a certain amount of the money that we pay for liability to our mutual, is that where the money would, or as a policy owner, that I would be putting the money in the mutual that would be coming back, or?
No, I'm sorry if I confused the issue that
Okay.
way. As a former mayor, I mean, our insurer was Cal, and I believe yours is BFL. When we see those annual statements come in, you see the 12 or 15% increase in your premium as a municipality. The issue for you, the same as it was in Collingwood, was the trips and falls and the accidents that people have, the liability exposure as a municipality. That's what you're being exposed to, and that's why the province was working to try and limit those types of expenditures. So no, the payout for this is strictly through the person's property insurance policy. It will have a zero effect on your premium, it has a zero effect on your deductible, and it has a zero effect on what you're entitled to receive as a policy holder. We've designed the program so that if you're making a claim as a residential policy holder, we will piggyback on your claim. If you're not making a claim with your policy, we will not make a claim. We've designed it not to harm, and that was my input as a former elected official, not to have somebody call you and make your life difficult by bringing new revenue in at their expense. This will have a net zero effect on the policy holder.
And that in your report, David, that you said extra things such as a certain type of fire that we had to go to the expensive foam and stuff might add in that
when you see our fees bylaw, the intention of our fees bylaw is not to be banging on ratepayers or insurance companies, but it's be in line with the sort of best practices of other fire services around us. And in fact, the fees bylaw you're seeing is being presented to Howick Council normally, because Howick and North Huron have worked together on this, and we've agreed to a fee structure. So maybe we can start to see some harmony in our county in terms of fire services. But the idea is that if we're incurring costs to go out to someone's structure fire, and we go through $1,000 worth, in one case this year went through $1,200 worth of foam, consumables are typically invoiced back to the insurance carrier for that fire. Likewise, there are other consumables and costs that insurance policies will cover or contribute towards, and that's where the Firemark expertise and program comes into play.
that I had short talk with my mutual agent 3 hours ago, when that he said he was unaware of it, but when I did mention it, he said, well, we had a fire in a garage in Clinton that vandals had set fire to, and to protect the neighboring buildings, he said, I don't know what it was, but it was called a bomb that they threw in to,
Yep.
and so that he said he knew the insurance company paid for that.
Yep. Those
So-
they're called.
So that's how it works.
Currently, we carry those right now, and right now, if we were to use one of those, they're $1,055 a piece. Our current fees by law would mean that North Huron Fire and North Huron Council would eat that cost. Even though insurance is willing to pay for that, our current fees by law says that's a freebie on us. Well, to me, that doesn't make sense.
David, just so I understand this, and make sure we're not adding 30% to the cost of doing business. In my own personal line of work, I hand bills to people and I say, hand it to your insurance company, they will pay, and most people don't know that that takes place. So the 30% that he's taking off the top for the business he's gonna do, you're putting the fees up to cover that? Or these are things that we miss going along the way, or we just don't bill certain people? Just explain
No,
that to me.
sure. A couple parts of that, because that was a question I had thrown at some of their fire chiefs, is you're now paying basically a third of your fees to Firemark. You know, why don't you just send out the invoice on your own? Because some of my fire chief colleagues have office support staff and other people can chase this down. And they said they just, although it's 1/3 or 30% of the fee recovery, Firemark's ability to get the funds or to collect on those funds was far more efficient and was actually better to the bottom line to pay that 1/3 than it was to do it in-house. The second part is that currently there's a lot of stuff that FD&H does that's free. A lot of stuff we consume at a fire that is free. A lot of expenditures we do at a fire that is free, that no one else around us is doing at no charge and at no cost. So we're, in essence, yes, we're paying 1/3, but right now we're getting zero. And right now our fees bylaws would see us get zero. So we put our fees bylaws to the sort of industry standard, and then we go with an organization that has a better ability to manage and collect and process those funds than we would in-house. And that's what I hear from my other chief colleagues. I consider that anecdotal, but when other chiefs say they're more efficient at it than we were, I tend to take these guys at their word. So it's not a matter of increasing our fees by 1/3, it's a matter of putting our fees to the same as our neighbors. And it's not a matter of paying a 1/3 for nothing, it's a matter of paying a 1/3 to get more than we would if we were to try and process it on our own.
The Insurance Act of Ontario recognizes brokers as the experts in selling, and they recognize insurance adjusters as experts in adjudicating and interpreting the contract of insurance to determine how much should be paid out. So the 30%, I'll take a third, if you want to give us a third. 30% that you're paying represents that expertise. So even if we work on a policy for 30 hours and it only has $1,000 coverage, you receive $700 for sending us information you were going to anyway, and we receive $300. So for the size of this municipality, you're getting extremely good expert advice, and you don't have to worry about the 30% that you're paying us. The other thing that we will not do is we will not take revenue away from your fire service. If there's an alternate method for your fire department to recover, if he was going to bill for the DSPA units, we're not taking away from that. We're only here to add to your revenue. There's 444 municipalities in Ontario. I have 31 clients in Ontario. I want a lot more. So we will look elsewhere to other communities to augment our revenue. We want to build capacity for new revenue.
Rob?
I wonder if we could hear from staff as to how they handle this at the moment, and what kind of a burden or how effective are we at the moment in collecting it.
Can I give you a couple of examples?
Sure.
We had a barn fire in March that we had a fair amount of consumables. At this point, we haven't been able to get an invoice out. A, because it's not a municipality. B, you have to get a hold of the person that owns the place. And the operator and the owner are not always the same on today's farms. Once you get a hold of that person, you need to get a hold of their insurance company. Once you get a hold of their insurance company, you need to find out how you process the invoice. I believe we have 3 structure fires right now that we are trying to process some costs through from 2014, and I don't believe we've been able to successfully get in and out. Biggest complicating factor is if they're not in our municipality. Likewise, increasingly today's rural houses, rural farms, may or may not be operated by or owned by the person that's operating, which makes it very difficult to chase this down. I think the bottom line for me on this is when the city of Kitchener finds it better to use Firemark to go out and collect the funds than their own in-house resources. I can assure you I do not have the resources that Tim, the chief of Kitchener, has to pursue this. But no, it's a fair question, and it's no disrespect to our staff. It's just not what any of us do. And I know I hear that from other chiefs in the county as well, that they find it difficult to process this. I don't know if Donna or Kathy, if you have any comments.
Well, I guess we're hearing this information for the first time too, so I haven't done anything background on it, and I think it's what David's saying. We haven't invoiced anybody before because we don't have any authority to do that. It's not, I don't know what success we would have billing out because we haven't done it before. So, but that's what David is saying, that he wants to change his bylaw so that he can have the authority to actually try to bill for things which we haven't done in the past. It hasn't been, as I said, we haven't had the authority under anything to do it before. So we have done a few MTO billings, which we did get, but other than that, it's been a very limited process simply because we haven't done it.
No, I would even say the MTO building, which really only started a number of years ago. I mean, there was a lot of municipalities going back our own fire boards times where they were really fighting tooth and nail to get payment of the insurance company. So it's a very cumbersome process.
Well, our ability to bill right now is very limited. There are some things we can, but it's not as comprehensive as our neighbors or as elsewhere. But even with our limited ability, it's just very difficult for our staff to just not what they do.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a bylaw in the later section of the meeting. We can have more discussion if some things come to council before then. So thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you, my pleasure to be here.
Was it your wish for me to finish my report at this point, or
Go back to just to stay with you.
Yep, no, that's fine.
Thanks.
You remember me? Okay.
Yep.
Hello. Okay, before I get into my report, the most important announcement of the entire evening is that tomorrow we are hosting a barbecue at the town hall to celebrate the exterior restoration celebration. And if you can take one and pass those on, that would be great. And I'm sure many of you walked in the front today and noticed that it looks great. The homecoming team has been out there decorating, and the building looks great. The gardens are planted, and in fact, the whole town is really starting to come together with the homecoming look, and they replanted the south garden. That was a big team effort with some groups from the Horticultural Society, Public Works, and our Parks Department. So we just want to celebrate that we have accomplished our first phase of the town hall restoration project and invite everybody to a barbecue. All the proceeds from the barbecue will go to the North Huron Community Food Share. So that was my most important announcement. Now, my report. Are there any questions about the barbecue? Come hungry. All right. So as I mentioned at a previous meeting and didn't really dig into this, we recently had our boilers at the museum inspected at one of their regular inspections, and they did not pass, and they are condemned, and we would not be able to receive oil delivery this fall. So that puts us in a situation where we need to take action in order to have heat in the museum. And going forward, we also had a report done by LAS on our energy management of that building and opportunities. And really, it's time to switch from oil to natural gas, which does run right past that building. And we feel that there are significant saving opportunities annually to doing that, because we spend $14,000 to $15,000 annually on oil to heat that building, and the reality is we don't even keep it that warm, do we, Connie?
Nope.
No. So it is a challenge. It's a large building, and there's no forced air right now in that facility. It is on a boiler hot water system. So in order for us to do this, we looked into how much this changeover would cost, and it's probably at least $30,000 to $35,000, and that puts us into a tendering situation. In order for me to tender out this work, I need to have some specifications. An engineer needs to tell us exactly what equipment is required for that kind of an expense. We need an inspection by them at the install to ensure that what is getting done and what was proposed to be done is getting done and gets signed off on at the end. So in my report, I have laid out some of the costs. Now, we also run up, so we're looking at, I think, a financial impact of $45,000 to change this over. Of course, this was not in the budget, as it was an unexpected facility urgent matter. So I've proposed how we can fund this, and going forward, we always put $20,000 in, this is summarized on the last page of the report. So we always put $20,000 in the facilities budget in order for us to handle such emergencies that we don't expect. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 things that cost $3,000 to $5,000. In this case, it's something that's going to exceed what we had put into our budget. We also have $5,000 in reserves that was put towards any future energy management project. So we would request from council to pull that out of reserves towards this project. And then that leaves us $20,000 to fund. And right now, as many of you know, we are undergoing major renovations for our fire code upgrades. We put $25,000 in the budget for that. Should the final bill on that come in under $25,000, maybe it's going to come in at 22, maybe it's going to come in at 15. We're still getting all these numbers in. Whatever's saved from that would go towards paying for this. And if we still have an amount that we need, we still will have an amount that we need to take out, our recommendation is that we borrow from ourselves in reserves the additional money. So if it's $20,000 that we need to borrow, we would pay that back annually by continuing to budget, which we currently do, at $15,000 a year for oil. And the natural gas bill might come in at $10,000. And that $5,000 will go back to pay the township back. So our goal is, after 4 years, we anticipate paying back that $20,000, having no impact on this current budget or any increase in future budgets, because we've always budgeted that amount for heat and oil at the museum. Hopefully we'll pay it back even faster, and we'll actually realize greater savings by natural gas. Once our engineers have got in there and have been able to assess the equipment, the BTUs and everything of all the units that they're going to recommend, they will be able to give us a much more accurate figure of how much natural gas costing and such that will take us each year to operate that museum if we operate it as we do today. So I'll be able to bring back a better number, but that's just my estimate. So I'm looking for a motion to move forward, to hire the engineer, to tender out this project, and to spend the money with the plan that I have proposed. I've learned also that in order for us to get this in by the fall, we're already behind the 8 ball. We should have probably tendered this out 2 months ago, because this equipment can take some time to get in. We do have a backup plan to make sure that we still have some heat in that building in the fall, but we'd like to move on this as soon as we can. So I'm open for any questions.
Moved by Councillor McGowan.
Yeah.
Councillor Campbell seconds. Dave?
Are you, through Reeve, Vincent, to Pat, are you going to go back with hot water system or a forced air?
Because there's no ductwork, the opportunity for that really is beyond the expense of this project. So we are going to go with hot water, is my assumption at this stage. We will, with our engineers, explore a ductless system, potentially that would also handle air conditioning. But we really have to crunch those numbers because that's an electric system, and my hydro bill in every building is going up. So I think the key here is to stick to natural gas and address the cooling in a future time. But we will get specs on cooling right now.
Supplement, will it melt the snowdrift in Connie's office?
I don't know what you speak of. It's 80 degrees and sunny in her office every day. Yes, of course it will. It's not her office that it snows. Does it snow in your office too? Oh, yeah, it will.
Personal question, will the engineer be analyzing the building as to what they feel the sizing of the unit would have to be? And is there anything on file from LAS as to what possible insulation would do to cut the amount of fuel that we would be using?
So that's a two-part question. I'll answer the first part. Absolutely. They're already, as soon as we are ready to move on this, sending them the size of every room, how many boilers, the size of that RAD unit, everything, and they will give us exactly what we need as far as size and capacity of the units. Right now, if you go down in the basement, they're giant oil and everything, and they're picturing small units on the wall and efficiency. There's also about, we think, $1,500 recoupable from Union Gas in a grant for switching over to efficient units. But yes, they will be looking at all of that and exactly what our need is for maximizing our savings and ensuring heat through that building. The second part of your question was
Insulation.
Insulation, right. So yes, LAS provided details on insulation for that building and great suggestions. They did not provide what the savings would be for that, nor I don't think could the engineers necessarily provide specifics for that. And I'm not recommending we move with those insulation jobs today. That is definitely something both in this building and the museum that is required in order for us to maximize our savings. Basement insulation and a lot of work in the attic, the third floor for sure.
Bernie?
So Mr. Bowden's raised this item a few times, and I'm going to raise it again, the fact that we're going to pay a company $8,000 to come and do the engineering, and we didn't bid on that. We didn't send that out for tender. And it is part of the deal. I've done probably half a dozen buildings where I put new systems in. And I always found the contractor would come up, and that would be part of the contract. They would do the engineering, and it's X amount of money, and it'd take care of everything. And of course, I would choose the company I want to go with. I just think we're getting into this situation where, and I know you said we're on a time frame here, but having said that, we were warned last year. Was it last year you had the person in that said we got to start looking at the energy audit, and they said, hey man, you guys got to start looking at this. It's not going to last. We have nothing in the budget for it, nothing put in the budget for it, and now it's become an emergency. I just going to voice my opinion that I don't think we should be just saying that gentleman can have the job. I think it should be tendered out.
Just to reply to that, I can say that we did put it in the budget and it was cut very quickly, right away. That's okay. I think before it even came to council, it was one of the items in order for us to get into the percentage we were looking for. What's that?
You almost had me.
That's okay. And then I guess to say who to pick. So it is always a challenge to select a service. We just went through a very lengthy process to select an architect for the Memorial Hall project. That process took almost 15 weeks to make sure and that was obviously for greater bill than we're talking about here. I did contact architects and local engineering firms The two ones that we typically use being Burnside here and BM Ross and Goddard do not have mechanical engineers at our sites here locally. I was referred to London and Guelph by them. So I had to find somebody. Integrated Engineering is a group that we are going to be working with at the Memorial Hall renovation. They were the sub-trade or the sub-contractor under the Alan Avis selection process that we just went through. And so that is why I asked them to bid on the project and give us a price here, not bid, sorry, to provide a costing for this. And I did go back and forth with them because when I saw $8,500, of course I fell off my chair as well and went, what? But after talking to him, the amount of time it would take and the number of visits and all of the work required, I was satisfied with their price.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay. That's all for that. Staff report on the parkades.
Okay, thank you, I've provided council with a report regarding the Blythe parkades and a recommendation. This has been in the works for quite some time. There's been a lot of back and forth between the County of Huron, North Huron, as well as the Blythe business owner that is the main proponent of this project. I think, as you can appreciate, if you're going to place a structure on a county highway in a live traffic environment, then it is going to raise some red flags. Not that it's not insurmountable, but there are some issues to work through that we have been working through over the past year, particularly safety, liability, structural integrity of the parkette. So I'm recommending that that council authorize the Reeve clerk to sign an agreement with the County of Huron, as well as the Blythe business person, to allow parkades in parking spaces on Queen Street in Blythe. It should be noted that the County Council have passed a motion authorizing the warden and the clerk to sign the agreement between the County of Huron and North Huron, pending due diligence by County Public Works staff and North Huron staff. I can also mention that Stantec have provided an engineering review of the parklet design, and that is being reviewed by County Public Works staff as well as myself and Tim Lewis. I know the County Public Works official, Mike Alcock, has made some recommendations that must be adhered to before we can allow the parkette to be installed. But I feel, and county staff feel, that the two municipalities in the meantime could enter into an agreement together to make this happen. But staff at the county and North Huron can continue to work through some of the engineering issues. We want to see improved reflectivity markers on the parkette. So there's some issues like that we need to finalize, but I know that community stakeholders in Blythe would like to see these parkades installed for the busy tourist season. There's also some time constraints with County Council meeting again. I believe it's July 2nd, and then they don't meet again until August. So there are some time constraints for us to work together to move the agreements forward and to get them on the county council agenda for final adoption. Suffice to say, we want to make sure that the site plan and the engineering issues have been addressed to everybody's satisfaction before we're going to allow the parkettes to be installed. I think these parkades, these parkettes, are certainly consistent with the downtown revitalization and beautification initiatives that have been underway in Blythe for the last couple of years. I know we were part of a presentation at County Council last June. County Council and county staff were very enthusiastic about the parkettes and what they represented in terms of streetscape and design elements, and I think it's a good thing to be a part of, but we want to make sure we're all satisfied with liability and safety, and all of those things will be covered off by the intermunicipal agreements and the engineering reviews and so on.
But it was, pardon me, Brock, it was something that took a long time at the county because County Roads Department was very cognizant of any liability, and to get the county approval on it took a lot of work, and that was given in August of last year, so that it's basically what we can do tonight will move it forward. Brock?
I'd like to move the approval of this recommendation, conditional on the approval of the engineering.
The conditions.
In both the county and the township.
Bernie seconds. Discussion, Jim.
Who does carry the liability on this? Do we cover that, or is that a partnership with the county, because it is the county road?
The business owner will have to provide, and this is stipulated right in the agreement, the business owner will need to provide $5 million in coverage, and provide proof of a certificate.
Okay, no, I just wanted to know who, somebody's got to carry the liability.
Number one, the business owner. Number two, the township. Number three, the county. If there is something that goes that far. The thing of it is that if you said there's a chance of any liability, nothing would get done. So. Dave?
I'm going to support the motion, but I wonder if there should be a timeline on it and approve it for 1 year and evaluate, and maybe we don't want it there next year if there's problems with them, or if the other businesses in town, there is a little bit of pushback on them now. So I wonder if we need to put a caveat in that we evaluate it after a year.
With the approval from the county, I believe it is seasonal for the summer season.
Right, but what about next year? Do they automatically go in if there's resistance to it?
I think as the Reeve said, there's a provision in the agreement between North Huron and the business owner that the parquet is just for a specific time period from this time 2014, this time in 2014,
yeah.
And then if there's interest from the business owner to install these in 2015, he or she would need to come back to North Huron and the county to request that there be another agreement, to basically request approval again.
Brock?
Just another comment. In line with Deputy Reach's comment, it's very valid, because I think we need to encourage the business improvement area to really consult with their members, because there are business people in the community that are not pleased with the loss of parking space, sometimes in front of their own building. So I mean, we need to ensure that that it's not being foisted on people when they don't have any say in the result.
Looks like all in favor? Okay, moving to water and wastewater facilities. John?
Thanks. I really don't have very much to add to the report. Other than Blythe Water, we're going to actually put a line suppressor on the main lines coming in, hopefully eliminate or minimize any lightning damage. And the second point, going way down to the DWQMS, the operational plan, I'm hoping to have have it posted next week on the website for public comment view. And other than that, if there is any questions on the report.
Any questions? Motion to receive the report as written, Brock and Archie. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Moving on to David and Fire Department of North Huron for the rest of your report.
You have our May report in front of you. You'll notice that in the past we've provided a map to you showing where our calls were. As per guidance at the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs, we cannot provide a map anymore showing where fire calls are because that would be an infringement on privacy. Which is interesting, but at the same time the law hasn't caught up and fire departments all over the place are tweeting the exact location of where their fires are. And in some cases, such as Windsor, it's a play-by-play of the fire incident as it plays out. And that is not an infringement of the Privacy Act because it hasn't caught up. So my apologies, but no more maps provided. It's also inappropriate for us to provide you with a street name or a street address. So we can tell you what municipality and what happened, but we cannot tell you the street name and address. Cannot provide you with a map, but we would be happy to tweet it to you if you need to know. Just don't tell anybody it's on Twitter, whatever you do. The only thing I'd like to pull your attention to is going to play into a discussion that comes later on this year. Is on the 19th of May we had a manure pile fire. This was outside of North Huron, but the fire was the result of an unauthorized, unsafe, uncontrolled burn. Had this fire, this was started by a pile of brush. Had the brush actually caught fire, it would have been another $1 million plus fire for FD&H. Fortunately for the farm owner, the brush did not catch fire, but it set the manure pile on fire. And after 7 hours of trying to put out the fire, they then called FD&H at 11 o'clock at night. And from 11 until 3 in the morning, we were out with 2 tractors and a full station response trying to ensure sheds didn't catch on fire because of this pile of manure. One of the things I would never expected when I became fire chief was the number of burn complaints I receive. Some of them are valid, some of them are just wild goose chases. I would never expected the number of inquiries I get, can I have this fire pit, can I do this? And I certainly wouldn't have expected the number of controlled burn issues, queries, and concerns I have from ratepayers both of North Huron and our contracted partners. And to that end, we are working with some of our neighboring fire officials, trying to get a more harmonized, consistent burn bylaw or burn guidelines. The potential exposure for our municipality is significant, and at the same time, I appreciate ratepayers wanting clarity in exactly what they should do, and we need to be able to give them that clarity. And a reality of rural life is that people and farmers are going to burn stuff on their farms, and we get that. That's part of it. We just need to make sure they don't burn down their entire farm by accident when they're at it. So you'll be hearing more about that from me probably in another few council meetings. But just a heads up, that is coming. Other observation would be is that we had fire call number 100 last week. So our activity level, although it's a little bit slower, is still fairly busy. Last week as well, in a pioneering project with the Huron County Health Unit, fire personnel from Howick, Morris Turnberry, and FD&H had a public education program in Blythe for 120 grade 1, 2, and 3 students. The intent was this was a dry run with a smaller number of students, and next year the intention is to take this to a very large number of students across multiple schools that are in ours and other fire department protection areas. And it was a success. We look forward to sort of building from here, but pretty neat to put 120 students through various safety things that are relevant to their age. Our gear dryers that we ordered will be in hopefully next week. Thank you very much for that. As an adjunct to that, it's part of our aggressive stance on firefighter cancer and firefighter cancer prevention. Unfortunately, as I'm sure some council is aware, former Blythe Fire Chief Paul Josling, who is a cancer survivor, underwent surgery on Friday as they found a lot more cancer in Paul. And certainly our department's thoughts and prayers are with Paul and his family. And as a fire chief, I will continue to stand that we'll do everything we can as an employer, as a fire service, and as a colleague of all of our firefighters to ensure the safety of them from cancer and other diseases. You have the fee reviews before you in the form of a bylaw. Well, basically what happened is I got fee structures from Kincardine, Perth East, Minto, North Perth, Middlesex Centre, Tiny Township, which is Tony Mintoff's municipality, whom some of the council I'm sure are familiar with, Wellesley, and then had Don Egan put them together in a chart to sort of plug ours in next to them. As we were going through that, Howick Fire Chief Sean Edwards and I had a discussion, and the bottom line is that Howick Fire Department and North Huron have come to an agreement in terms of what we would suggest as an appropriate fee structure relevant to all of the neighboring departments I just mentioned. And as such, you'll see a revised fee structure for emergency and non-emergency services we're proposing tonight. Tomorrow night, Chief Edwards is proposing the same fee structure to Howick Council. And our hope is that both municipalities and both fire services will have a consistent fee schedule going forward. I see that as a very positive step. I'm a big fan of working with neighbors. I'm a big fan of consistency. And I see it as a very positive step that Howick and North Huron might be able to come to a consensus on something such as this. And having gone through a fair number of other fire service bylaws, we're confident that our proposed structure is not exorbitant, is not inappropriate, and at the same time is not shortchanging our ratepayers in the use of their tax money in provision of fire services and inspection services. So that is before you, and adjunct to that, of course, is the Firemark proposal, and the Firemark and the fees bylaws go hand in hand because you'll notice on the fees bylaws there's reference to indemnification technology.
David, have you had a chance to talk to the people that buy services off us about this?
Sorry?
You know, have you had a chance to talk to the municipalities that buy services off us about this change? I know they don't affect them financially, but it's just best with partners to...
Well, what we did is we looked for these departments because they have fire prevention officers. Because I started to get the feeling our fire prevention fees were out of line. So that was the first catalyst for sort of our list of departments, looking for people who have an FPO on staff. The second part of this is that Sean did more of the local research, and when he brought his proposal to the table, his proposal already reflected the local departments on the emergency services side. And when you look at our fee structures there, they're pretty consistent. We make reference to the MTO rate, which is what all of our neighbors are using for other fee structures.
I'm more concerned with Norris Turnberry and ECW knows that we have agreements with. Is there any way will you be presenting this to them and explaining this?
It would be my intention at the last part of this puzzle or this package is the discussion with operating reserve funds. It would be my intention, I have scheduled meetings with these councils as per their agreements. Some are quarterly, some are annually, etc. But it'd be my intention to outline our fee structure, outline Firemark, and outline our operating reserve funds to all of our contractor partners so that they understand the full package.
Is there any motion required here, or just through the bylaws?
Do
Stephen, I may have missed including this operating reserve, the draft operating reserve guidelines in the package. Your letter was included, but I may have missed the one-page guidelines, so can you just speak to that?
Certainly. FD&H runs an operating reserve fund that allows us in years of extreme busyness to continue to operate. The proposed and currently in draft form guidelines would be is the fund is to be kept at $50,000, and that'd be in 2013 dollars. The target would be annually adjusted by the same adjusted value as our agreements for fire protection services. So if we go up 2% on our agreements with all of our contractor partners on our budget next year, this would go up by 2% as well, so that the reserve keeps up with inflation. At the end of a fiscal year, if the operating reserve is not at $50,000, surplus funds would be applied to it until it reaches its target value. If the operating reserve is at its target value, any surplus funds will be distributed to North Huron and FD&H's contracted partners according to their proportion of our current budget. Proceeds from firemark indemnification technology, except those for direct equipment replacement, will be applied to the operating reserve. Using the operating reserve, suggested guidelines for using the operating reserve would be if FD&H part-time hours, in other words, those are firefighter wages, are more than 5% of the historical average used in budget calculations. In that case, the part-time compensation above the budget calculation would be withdrawn from the operating reserve. Second criteria would be as if FD&H encounters unforeseen and non-budget emergency expenditures for equipment repair. Repair must be a non-budget item and must be greater than 10% of the repair budget in order for operating reserve funds to be used. An example of that would be one of our neighboring municipalities had an aerial truck that this year suddenly needed $25,000 in unbudgeted pump repairs. If that was to come here, I would see that as a criteria for this. Third one is if FD&H encounters unforeseen and/or non-budget emergency capital expenditures for equipment. This would be equipment that is not covered under a capital reserve procurement plan. And last one is if FD&H requires urgent expertise or services to assist with a one-time and/or significant occurrence. Final note is that all use of FD&H operating reserve funds would be subject to approval of North Huron Council. I think it's important for our ratepayers, I think it's important for our contractor partners to know that A, we have this fund, to know how we're going to manage this fund, and be assured that this will only truly be for contingency, not an ongoing operational fund. And finally, if it is topped up and we've still got proceeds going into it, I think it's only good business and good practice to distribute those back to the contributing parties.
I think we need to have a copy.
No, absolutely.
Okay. Any questions right now, or if you remember them by the time we get to the bylaws, you can ask them then.
Okay.
Moving forward, Director of Finance. The community partnership listing.
So the community partnership listing was included in your agenda package. It was part of the budget that was passed. That's the same listing and the same amounts that we have had over the last couple of years. In addition to that, council passed a motion at last meeting to take $200 out of the unallocated amount to give towards the sponsorship of the Clinton Public Hospital function that you were just talking about. So those amounts have all been included in the accounts payable run, which is in this package. So you still have $675 for any requests that may come in between now and the end of the year. So is there any questions on that?
Do I have a motion?
No, we don't actually.
Oh, okay.
And then subsequent to that is the request from council has been in the habit of sponsoring education programs and some of the bursaries and donations through our local schools. And so a list of those, which is similar to last year, is also included in your package. Now, those ones we don't have those ones weren't in the budget, so we could have a motion on those.
McGowan and Campbell. All in favor? And moving to new business, consent applications. Sally, you want to take a little bit of a lead in explaining that?
Sure. Do you, which one do you have first in your package?
The hopper.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to look at our first two surplus resident service applications from our official plan amendment. And there's a couple more in the pipe, so this is good practice for us. And these two that we're going to look at tonight are good introductory ones because they meet all the criteria that we had set out in the official plan update. So we'll go through them individually and then you can ask questions. And then what I'm looking for is a recommendation on whether or not the township would like these to be approved, as Huron County is the approval authority. So the first one is on London Road, on the north part of Lot 42, and it's to create a 1.5 acre parcel that contains, currently contains a house and a garage, a shed, and a little chicken coop. And the area that's going to be severed does include a little bit of cropland in order to provide a buffer of 10 meters for the wellhead, their drinking water source. And in going through the criteria, MDS is one of the ones that takes a bit of calculating, and so we looked at 7 livestock facilities that are within 1,000 meters of the proposed severance, and this house and the lot line that's being proposed meet the distances that are required. And in fact, the one that it doesn't, there is only one that it doesn't meet, and we don't actually count that one because in our criteria in the official plan it says we don't consider MDS to be a requirement if the livestock facility is less than 100 nutri units, and in this case it's 37. So the severed land meets the distance to all of the other properties. So it's important first at the outset to go through, like, is it actually surplus? And in this case it is. There's one other farm that this entity owns that has a house on it. The residence is habitable and it intends to be used as a residence. There's a tenant there now. We talked about the size of the severed being appropriate to service the dwelling, and that's essentially the criteria. And the flip side of that is to minimize the amount of cropland that you take out of production. So in my opinion, it's an appropriate size. And there's been no previous separation for a residential purpose. That's other important criteria, so that we're not fragmenting land for residential purposes in agricultural designations. The retained lands are 39 hectares, which far exceeds the 19 hectare minimum. And the residence is not within 300 meters of an aggregate, a potential aggregate source. So they were not required to do an assessment of that, according to the mapping in our official plan. So when you have a severance like this that meets the criteria, it's important to look at the conditions that I'm recommending, because essentially this is where we capture what's important to the township and what needs to occur logistically, financially, in order to ensure that 2 parcels of land out there can be managed by the township in terms of administration and 911 and those types of things. So the conditions are attached to the report, and then there is a bit of a catch-all here for municipal requirements. But specifically, a new lot's being created, so there's a parkland fee. There is requirement that access be gained or given permission for the retained land, so the farmland, because in some cases, and in this case, the farmland doesn't have its own access, and a permit needs to be received from the township. So all of these conditions are reviewed by your staff, and I get their feedback as I create these recommended conditions. And then the zoning amendment to change the severed land to a small holdings type of zone that recognizes the dwelling or a residential use as primary use. And the retaining land to be rezoned to prohibit a house, so that's gonna require a special agriculture, general agriculture zone. Drainage would need to be reassessed, and a septic system, this is an opportunity that the county has put in place to ensure that septic systems are in working order. So on the severed land, they need to demonstrate that it has been pumped and inspected before the severance can be finalized. So these are the conditions that I'm recommending on this surplus resident severance, and I will make a recommendation to the county that it be approved.
Right.
I would make a move forward with
Okay, Archie seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, the
Okay.
other one, please.
So the next one we have is on Nature Center Line. Sorry, that's not right.
No.
This is on Prairie Line. The next one you're gonna see next month is on Nature Center Line. Just been working on it. This surplus resident severance would create a parcel of 1.45 acres, so 1.5 almost, and also meets the criteria that we set out in the official plan. There's been no, like the other one, there's no neighborhood objections, and North Huron staff have reviewed the severance to help inform the conditions. So this severance really contains just a house at the moment, and the parcel itself includes some farmland because the septic bed for this house is actually underneath some of the cropland at the moment. So the parcel that's being proposed includes enough cropland to ensure that the entire reaping bed is on the severed parcel with a 3-meter buffer as required in the building code. And so for that reason, the area proposed is appropriate in my opinion and meets the criteria that only a minimum of farmland is taken out of production to support the dwelling. There was only 2 livestock facilities in this case that needed to be assessed, and it meets the required setback for both as per the provincial guidelines. And I won't run through the criteria here. I just wanted to do that once so you kind of have a sense. Because both of these meet the criteria, there's not a lot of like interesting tidbits or characteristics of the site that need to be discussed. And in the event that we find one that doesn't meet this criteria, then I'll be going through it in quite a bit more detail because it's important that we understand why. And this is also essentially a 100-acre lot, so it leaves us with 39 hectares of retained land. And the conditions recommended in this case are really similar to what we had in the last severance that we just looked at. Again, parkland fee, survey, zoning amendment, drainage assessment, and a septic system inspection. Those are all very standard conditions for a surplus resident severance. And in this case, there was a barn, which is part of the criteria that if there's a barn on the severed land, that it be demolished, but it has already taken place. So the barn's already gone. And I'll be recommending to the county that this application be approved as well.
I move approval.
Moved by Brock, seconded by James. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Sally.
No problem.
Moving to council information, council may bring any point forward for further discussion. Bernie?
I just have a question for Donna without going to the pages. In the checks, we have the Wingham BIAs, and we also have live BIA checks being sent out by the township. Why have the BIAs had to pay their own bills?
Sorry, what's the number?
The Wingham one is the Hanging Planters, page 15. Check number 003998, 50850.
Pat can correct me if I'm wrong, but the BIA had a fundraiser where they sold all those planters, and so
Yep.
the township bought those ones hanging on the front of this
Oh, okay.
building, so
Okay.
that's, I assume that's what those ones are.
On the museum and on this
And
building.
the other, yeah.
And then the other one then, again, is the Blythe BIA, and it's on page 13, and it's for the citizen for $28.25. Right at the bottom. 000642.
I think that's just supporting an ad for one of the BIA events. Do you remember which one that was, Dave?
I believe that's the monthly calendar that we put out in the,
Flyers?
yeah, the monthly flyer, and Township North Huron puts the banner in.
Thank you. This is just one other one, and that's for Connie, and it's for, where I seen that one, about $2,000 for, I believe it was, Connie? The $2,000 was for Waterloo.
Yeah, for,
Can you just explain to us what that's for?
Yeah, for a week of training at the University of Waterloo. It's year 2, so if I complete now 2 papers and an exam, I will actually get an FD designation. So that's training. It's my training for the year.
Thank you.
Motion to receive, read, and file. McGowan and Gordon. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving to committee reports, there's a Blythe BIA. Anything extra, Dave?
Nothing.
Okay. There's no questions. Wingham BIA. Anything extra?
Nothing to add.
Doesn't look like any questions. Moving to bylaws. Bylaw number 36, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between the corporation of the Township of North Huron and Firemark Inc.
For second, third.
And Reach and Campbell. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 37, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between the County of Huron and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron to allow for the installation of seasonal parkades on portions of Queen Street, County Road 4, in the former village of Blythe.
First, second, and third.
Wadden and Bailey. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 38, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between Rec Elliott and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron to allow for the installation of seasonal parkades on portions of Queen Street, County Road 4, in the former village of Blythe.
For second, third. Unless somebody.
Reach and Bailey.
Once it gets done, that's okay.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Bylaw 39, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between Alan Avis Architects and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron for Blythe Memorial Community Hall renovation project.
First, second, third.
McGowan and Hallahan. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. The added, bylaw 42. So we'll do 40 first. Okay. Bylaw number 40, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council terms of reference between Memorial Hall renovation Community Advisory Committee and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron for the Blythe Memorial Community Hall renovation project.
Move first, second, and third reading.
Vauden and Campbell. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 42 now. Okay, this is the bylaw that we added. Gary's handing out Schedule A with the specifics. But basically, this bylaw number 42, 2014, being a bylaw to amend the rates and fees for the Fire Department of North Huron. Callahan and Bailey. Any discussion? Give you a sec if you want to digest Schedule A a little more.
Speed reader.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Council reports and inquiries. Councilor McGowan.
Just one, Your Worship. For those, many of us were at the meeting with the school board last week to discuss traffic issues. I think it was a very productive meeting. The one item that came out of that was, I think all the parties agreed that there needed to be an additional crossing guard at the corner of Summit and John. And I'd like to make a motion that that be pursued with the idea of implementation for next fall, next school year.
You're seconding, Bernie? Okay, McGowan and Bailey. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Anything else, council? Okay, proceed to the clerk administrator's report.
Okay, thank you, Reeve. Just a reminder that we have a meeting scheduled this Thursday at 7 o'clock with Matt Pearson from Huron Ross to review the rate study that was completed for our water and sewer rates. So just a reminder of the meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. to review the water rate study with Matt Pearson from Huron Ross. I put a copy of a letter on your desks. This is from myself and Nancy Mickey from municipality of North Cranberry. We're going to have an information meeting in Wingham on Thursday, July 3rd at 7 p.m. to provide more information about the Wingham and area industrial land strategy. And this letter, this memo has been sent to property owners in the specific area that's been designated as the Wingham and area industrial land area, if you will. And it'd be great to have council attendance at that meeting. As I said, this letter has been sent to property owners in both municipalities in this particular zone. So look forward to having council attendance at that meeting. That's all I have.
Okay, Moving to public gallery questions and or comments about things that we have gone over earlier in the meeting. Terry?
Which one?
Terry?
Sorry, Pat, this is for you about the museum heating system. Is there asbestos, the old boilers are wrapped in asbestos, and the pipes and all that, are they wrapped in asbestos? And if so, what precaution are you taking to, that's a good question for Dave too.
Pat?
The building has undergone an asbestos review, and I don't have that report here with me. I would have to go back and check. But when the contractor and everybody is selected, they will be informed and given a copy of that. It has all the hazardous materials designated in that building and identified. But to tell you right now whether those pipes are wrapped, I cannot. I don't remember on that report. We had almost 30 reports all done at the same time. And all that is made aware of any contractor or any staff person doing any work in that building where the asbestos is.
Because being a mechanical operator, owner-operator of the whole heating business, I can tell you most likely they will be wrapped in asbestos, and that's going to drive the cost up considerably.
I can get back to council if you would like to know the specifics of the museum. I may be able to find that report before we're out of here. It might be in here.
Robert? Yeah, I have a few questions about the heating system as well. Maybe just to add to that point, sometimes asbestos is inside the boiler. There you can find vermiculite in old 100-year-old century boilers a lot of times. One of my questions is the recommendation, was it for 2 or 3 boilers? Because sometimes in a commercial application, when you add a few more boilers, it's more like more boilers carry the load and burden, and it actually keeps the heating costs down. And those boilers, are they recommending a modulating boiler, or are they just recommending like a standalone boiler? And I was wondering too, with their report, is that going to be accessible to those applying for tender?
I can't answer any of the first half of those questions because the engineers have not started their work, and when they do, they will provide all of those specs and information. The idea is that all of that information will then be as part of the tender package. So any company, such as yourself or anyone who's wanting to bid on the project, they will be given all of that information and provided with exactly what we want, so that when people tender, it's apples to apples. It's not everybody, well, I'm giving you this system and you're giving me that system. This is why we go through this, to make sure it's the right size for the building, that it is the best equipment. And I do appreciate your follow-up call. I'm learning a lot about this, and you've been a great help. Thank you.
Is there, are they going to be doing a depressurization test on the building as well? If not, I would ask them if they were doing a depressurization test. That would tell you the infiltration rate of the building itself, minus the R value of the windows and such. The other comment I'd like to make is I was speaking with Train Canada about another commercial project that I'm bidding on, and they said that there is a rebate program where you can get like $1,000 per ton for an air conditioner commercially. And a few years ago, when they had the federal and provincial rebate program where a residential homeowner would have a depressurization test of their house to qualify for the grant money, commercial was tied up in a lot of engineering and a lot of, like, you had to really put a big lengthy proposal forward for any government funding. And a lot of these, when I spoke with Gary Hanna, I think it's Gary Hanna from Train, he said that they offer $1,000, and it's just basically you say what system's coming out, what system's going in. And it really loosened up on the bureaucracy and trying to get that rebate money back for the systems that you're looking at putting in. So it may be something to look into as well.
Thank you.
Trevor?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Reeve. Comment to, I guess, more for the Wingham BIA from the presentation we received from the Blythe BIA. Is the Wingham BIA looking at utilizing a certain document like that for doing their own marketing plan? And is that something maybe that they can help kind of guide them in their marketing strategies? So that was one of my questions. And I guess from the Blythe presentation, so who's accountable to make sure the plan remains on target? And being though this is a 6-month contract, is this person going to be looking, part of their job going to be looking for more grants to utilize, make sure they have their own jobs still available? So that would be my concern.
Dave. Second question, the person hired is answers to the BIA, and part of their job is to search out grants and do grant applications to secure money to keep them employed. But they do answer to the BIA, and the BIA will be evaluating their performance. It is a 6-month contract, and it is not guaranteed to be renewed.
Brock?
I'd like to just add one item. Each time when a project is partially funded by the HEDP, they require a final report once the process is finished. It's not a rigorous kind of thing, but just to make sure that the project has been completed and apparently is satisfactory, that kind of thing.
So who from council is going to, I guess if the BIA is responsible and accountable, with the partnership from the township, who in the township is making sure the BIA is accountable to make sure that this report is being utilized, is my point.
I'm the council rep on the BIA.
Okay. There's been a lot of conversation about engineering tenders and that kind of stuff. Is there a possibility to do a tender to have an engineering firm on, I don't know what the term is, on retainer, that this conversation doesn't need to be brought up 17,000 times about a tender for engineering? I suspect the township needs engineering services quite frequently, so that might alleviate some of the problem with having multiple tenders.
Would you want to speak to that,
I was just
Richie?
going to say, normally we utilize one of 2 firms we have over the past number of years. One is the local firm, which is within the municipality, and the other is BM Ross, which has typically handled sewer services and water and issues like that. It's a little unusual that one of the local firms doesn't deal with it. In the case of waste management, Burnside doesn't have somebody locally, but they do have somebody at the Orangeville office that handles waste matters, so we use the local office in that case. So in most cases, I think we try to stick with the local engineers if we can. In this instance, it just happens they don't have somebody mechanical on staff, so that's why we're going outside.
Thank you. Andy?
To David, through yourself, what's the current, well, I guess this is the current one now, but what's the previous schedule of charges look like? You said there was...
I can get you a copy of that if you...
Okay, that'd be great.
Sure.
I just have a further question about Firemark. How does it function within other departments that aren't part of Firemark? Like as far as if there's cross-boundary fire calls where you're called in to help assist another department or they're called in to assist you?
If we go to South Bruce, for example, or Howick, Howick's goes in Firemark at one of the council meetings, but South Bruce already is a Firemark client. We go to South Bruce, mutual aid means it's all out of our pocket. And if Teeswater comes here and we're a Firemark client, all of their services are out of their pocket. And that's sort of the way the mutual aid program works.
So it kind of balances out between departments?
Yeah. Yeah, but we can't invoice them and they won't invoice us.
Okay. Gary?
provided to council a copy of the draft FD&H operating reserve funds guidelines. And my apologies for not including that in the council package. David summarized this earlier during his report, but I wonder if you could just take a minute or two to go through it. And if you agree with the terms of the guidelines, I would ask that council pass a motion to adopt these guidelines.
I have a question about item number 2 in the bottom of the panel. 2A, seems to be something missing in the sentence. In order for operating reserve funds to...
A FD&H encounters unforeseen and/or non-budget emergency expenditures for equipment repair.
I think it's in the order for or funds. And at the end of the sentence that you're talking,
Sorry, the end of the...
OR, the operating
OR is
reserve.
operating reserve.
OR is operating reserve.
I know that, but in order for
operating
reserve funds
to be used.
to be used. Okay, that's fine, thanks. I move approval of this as revised.
Second. McGowan seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. There is an in-camera. Okay, we will have an in-camera session. Do I have a motion to go in-camera? Rodden and Hallahan, all in favor? Carried. Short